Hey guys, Kate420, and I'm back again with a video requested by a fan in the comments. If you have a video you'd like me to do, or a case that's getting under your nerves and the news isn't reported on it, sure, hit me up. This case seemed to bother this person and really wanted somebody to report on it, so here I am. Let's go. All right, come here. Let's get up top here. So, a rabbi at a Bronx private school tricked a student into sending him nude photos, says the FBI. Associate principal at a top Jewish private school in the Bronx was busted for allegedly manipulating a 14-year-old student into sending nude photos of himself, Fed said. Rabbi Jonathan Skolnick, who worked at Salinger Akiba Riverdale Academy in Riverdale, was arrested on Friday at his Bronx home on charges that include child enticement and possession of child pornography. Wait till you see how he did it. It's disgusting. The middle school administrator allegedly posed as online as multiple teenage girls to communicate with this 14-year-old starting in March. Typically, one girl would introduce him to the next girl, the FBI said in the complaint. And the communications with each girl were platonic in nature at first, but eventually became sexual. The teenage victim was then coerced into sending sexually explicit photos of himself in June to fake email addresses such as girlwholikesyou@protonmail.com. Oh, wow. You pedos have no creativity, do you? Anyway, the supposed girls would then exchange photos with him, claiming snaps of naked women were of themselves, Fed said. The boy stopped responding, and Skolnick adopted a bogus phone number, pretending to be one of the girls, and sent messages that became increasingly threatening in nature. Wow. The teen then got scared. The teen got scared. The person he'd been exchanging photos with would make them public. Apparently, you don't care who knows one message allegedly threatened. So this pedo wasn't getting any more kitty porn. And so he went to the extent of getting him a Google number and pretending to be Sally Ann and saying, well, remember those pictures you sending me jerking off? Well, I'm going to, I would hate to see those become public. And you better send me 3 more. Send me 3 more, and then you don't have anything to worry about. That's what this was, you guys. Wow. And this is a rabbi at a Jewish school who was the assistant principal. And I haven't heard it on any news channel. Probably down close to the island, Long Island, but that's about it. It says Skolnick admitted to the depraved scheme when he got busted, telling authorities they were approximately 20 to 25 victims. So it wasn't just this boy. So he had multiple boys he was doing this with at once. Most of them were minors, says the complaint. And in a letter in a letter Monday to parents, the school principal, Rabbi Binyamin Cross, said Skolnick had been terminated and warned other students may be victims of the scheme. We have reason to be concerned that SAR students may have been victims or potential victims, and we are asking you to share any information you have with law enforcement as they continue to conduct their investigation. If convicted of the charges, Skolnick faces up to life in prison. Wow. I am absolutely terrified. Okay, so we're going to talk about this guy for a second. But I've got some other things too, because if you can't trust your rabbi, and you can't trust your principal, and you can't trust the school that your children are at, even though it's extremely private and religious and all that, who can you trust? I just wanted to see if this other article had anything other than what we just read in it, and I'm skimming through it while I'm talking to you. Here we go. It says, when one 14-year-old boy eventually stopped responding, the sender threatened to release the young victim's nudes. It says, well, you still haven't apologized or explained, so who will I text next? Read one message sent by Tina Warner. That was a name of a girl he pretended to be. It traced back to an IP address associated with Skolnick's home. Bingo, Google number. They traced it back to a what? An IP address. What they didn't trace it back to a phone, they traced it back to an IP address. Google number. On Friday, law enforcement officers executed a search warrant on Skolnick's home where they recovered a laptop and 2 cell phones containing child porn. Shortly after, the rabbi admitted to the police that he had requested nude images from between 20 and 25 victims. The school's principal sent the letter. Okay. Shocking. Okay, I know that this is this is part of the letter too, guys. I know this is an extremely difficult message to read and process on many levels. It's shocking to know that someone who we have trusted with our children has been accused of harming them. Despite the practices in place to protect our children, we are not immune to breaches such as the one that seems to have taken place at SAR. Skolnick is currently in federal custody ahead of a detention hearing on Wednesday. The top charge, production of child porn, carries a minimum of 15 years in prison. An attorney for Skolnick could not be reached for a comment. All right, let me get a drink here. I all of a sudden got the sniffles. The weather is so up and back and forth here in New York. Everybody's sick. 1 minute it's 55, the next minute it's 80. This was just part of I wanted you guys to see because apparently some people had been questioning my commenter about this case even being a valid case. And I just wanted you to see quickly. This is the Southern District of New York's the case against him. It's on their page. It explains that you can go through. Okay, like it says from the NYPD Commissioner Jim O'Neill, it says today's charges serving a warning to individuals who serve as a warning to individuals who prey upon some of our society's most vulnerable. You will be arrested, held accountable for your actions. And then it goes on to say between March 19th and September 19th, Skolnick. It goes on to talk about victim one being Tina Warner, Molly Dejmal, and Anna Freed. Those were names that he pretended to be. The victim one emailed nude and sexually explicit photographs of himself to at least two email accounts. And then it goes on. It goes on to say, certain messages were directed to victim one, were registered to Skolnick's home in the Bronx. Let's see, one count of making extortionate communications, which carries a sentence of 2 years. One count of child enticement, which carries a sentence of 10 years, maximum of life. One count of possession of child porn. This is going to happen times 20 when all these kids come out, guys, because they've only got one indictment here. And then while investigating this one indictment, the pedo, the rabbi, admitted to doing it to 20 to 25 more kids. So, yeah, if you can't trust your rabbi, who can you trust? Well, you sure can't trust the freaking cops now either. Because in 1 week, at the same time that we've got rabbis enticing boys to send them naked pictures online, we've got in 2 different states the arrest of 2 pedophile officers. Uh-oh, I hope that's not going to come on. Don't come on. Don't come on. Hold on. I got to fix something real quick. There we go. Come on. There we go. Now I should pop up. Oh, maybe not. There we go. Anyway, so there, local cop arrested with gloves and zip ties while on the way to meet a 14-year-old girl. Yes, you heard it. On his way to meet a 14-year-old girl. This was all this happened this week, you guys. Canadian County, Oklahoma, on a near daily basis, police officers across the country are arrested for possessing child pornography. I have no idea why it won't come up. Let me try something real quick. I just want to know why my camera won't come up. All right, maybe we'll just let it go for a minute. Anyway, police officers across the country are arrested for possessing child pornography or attempting to rape adults and children alike. These scenarios are by no means isolated incidents because so many of these cases take place. Many of them fail to garner the attention that they should, despite being utterly horrifying. The following incident out of Oklahoma is one of those cases. Well, I don't know why my camera's not going to pop up. It's not even on. It's making me wonder if it's even recording. Yeah, it says it's recording. Well, we'll wait till the next page. I hope you can. I'm going to have to check and see if you guys can hear me. Maybe it's because of this ad blocker thing. I don't know. Anyway, Pushmata County Sheriff's Officer or a deputy, Cullen Jones, was arrested in July while he was on his way to meet a young girl who he'd met on social media. During his arrest, police searched his vehicle, found multiple items he was going to use to savagely rape the child. Police found leather gloves, a knife, zip ties, which Jones would have most certainly used based on online conversations that took place. Luckily, the young girl was not a young girl and was an undercover officer as part of a child sex operation sting. And he had driven 2 hours to go meet this girl who he thought was 14 and have Jones told the girl he wanted to act out a daddy-daughter sexual relationship. Oh, wow. And then it says, according to authorities, the conversation quickly devolved into a sickening scenario, which is why they stated Jones would have likely used the knife and zip ties on the girl. Wow. All right, let's see what this one does. Let's see if the camera pops up. Yep, it does. Pedophile cop admits to running horrifying child porn network that included infants. Hi guys, I'm back. I think it's because my ad blocker was up. I don't know. I had to check the video now, make sure you can hear it. A former Army veteran and police officer. You heard that right. Former Army veteran and police officer. So now all of the people that we tell our children that they can turn to are all the people now who are now preying upon them. I'm sick to my stomach. Anyway, Matthew Laver of Souderton, PA, was charged with the most 4,000 images of the most disturbing child pornography. Yeah. He was violating the law he was sworn to uphold while taking a paycheck as a law enforcement officer. This is not an ex-officer. This was an officer who was still on duty. Even though it did say he just quit. Okay, Lever had quit the police force before being arrested and convicted. I would say the other one said he was an ex-officer. That's the only reason I'm saying that. It says, while responsible for enforcing the law, Laver himself was flagrantly violating it and preying upon the most vulnerable victims, young children. And they expressed that a couple times. It says Laver's child porn stash was located on his phone, his external hard drive, as well as his computer. Prosecutors were quick to point out his addiction to kiddie porn dated back to his time in the Army and throughout his service as a law enforcement officer. Some of the children were infants. Here, I'm not just saying that. Read it with your own eyes. Some of them children were infants. This was the cop, you guys. Sexually exploited on film for Laver's pleasure or for distribution. It's unclear at this point to whom the former soldier and police officer was sharing this horrific content. First Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Arbiter Williams stated the harm caused by this child exploitation is devastating, long-lasting, which is why we prosecute these cases aggressively. You never prosecute. I can't even finish reading that bullshit because you never prosecute them aggressively. That's why they're always back out in the streets. I did a burglary 13 years ago. Yeah. And I watched girls who killed their children, smothered their babies, come in and get a with a 1 to 3 and leave on parole before I ever even got comfortable doing my end number was 7, put it that way. So I'm just saying, and that was for robbing a drug dealer. So how's that look? Okay, I watched mothers that killed their own children go home, just like I watched a grandmother and a mother and her daughter, who basically were selling the granddaughter. It was the oldest one. Obviously the daughter's mother is the daughter's grandmother. Well, the two oldest had concocted a scheme to sell the 9-year-old daughter to their crack dealer every weekend for months, and she was 8 years old, to the point where she climbed out the window. I think it was like this 7-story window of the apartment building to escape one weekend after being gang raped by multiple men. This little couple, this mother daughter couple, not only did they get a flat bid of 2 years, but they were on their way out for parole again before I ever even got comfortable. So, just so you know that they don't prosecute them aggressively. Maybe the feds. I mean, I don't know. While he was a police officer, Lever spent 10 years online disseminating his collection of horrifying child porn. So that's 10 years of being a cop. He was doing this, which depicted sexual assault and rape of children as young as infants. Ay, 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 guys. Like, these are the scum of our society that we need to just watch out. You don't want the YouTube people after you, Kate. Anyway, it says he also admitted to investigators he engaged in masturbation while watching the child porn. He faces a minimum 5-year sentence, plus an additional 15 in prison. You heard it. 20 years for all that, for raping babies. Not life. 20 years. Wow. And it said, it goes into, if you read, you guys, it says, while this is shocking that a police officer did it, if you go down right to July, the problem of government agents viewing images of horrific images and videos of child porn on the official Department of Defense computers had gotten so out of control, so out of hand, bipartisan legislation had to be introduced to curb the practice. They couldn't catch them and fire them. They had to introduce fucking legislation to stop our Department of Defense employees paid government 401k benefit package, $70,000 a year fucking positions to not use their Department of Defense computers to look up child porn, download child porn, buy child porn, disseminate child porn. They were not as a part of their job, but because they were flagrantly doing it, because no one was catch, they knew they were caught, but there was no one was making them accountable. No one was holding them accountable, and it took bipartisan legislation, as you can tell. Ay, 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 ay. All right, guys, listen. I've got another one that's just as emotional. I gotta work. It's all set to go. I'm gonna start recording it as soon as I push this one out. It should be up in about 20 minutes. So, just so you know, the investigation was conducted by the Pentagon's Criminal Investigative Service and hundreds of suspects who work for and are affiliated with the DoD. They basically said there was over 5,000 individuals while they were in the middle of investigating. They didn't even get through convicting or prosecuting like 2,000 of them, and they just dropped the rest of them. They just dropped the cases. So these people are still working at the Department of Defense, and they just made up legislation to stop them from using the computers. Because legislation there wasn't already a law in the books that said you can't download child porn. That law was already there when they did it. It just wasn't in their work contract. So now it's in their work contract. Isn't that the most asinine thing you've ever heard? That's like telling somebody that a, AR-15 ban is going to stop another Nicholas Cruz from shooting up a school. Okay. He's not going to go grab a bunch of handguns, some Glocks, and some magazine. You really? The next Nicholas Cruz ain't going to, because I'm pretty sure that criminals don't normally, care about gun laws. But anyway, I digress.